Good evening and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today's video I am going to be delving into the most recent hoopla going on within various YouTube channels and also likely on Twitter as well. And this is the debate between player knowledge or metagaming versus character knowledge, which I identify as role playing. So, and I argue that you should separate the two. All right, as a dungeon master or game master, you should be separating the two. As a player looking to role play your character, you should separate the two. And there's a time and a place for player knowledge, obviously, and metagaming, which I consider to be the ideal time for metagaming, is when you are creating a character and you're learning what rules and what abilities and class abilities or racial abilities or secondary skills and such, and how they will function with your character. And that's going to be done either pre-session zero or during session zero. And that is just to get you prepped for running your character as in a way that you're looking to do. And you're going to do other things as well, other than just having, well, on my character sheet, these are all my abilities and everything. You're also going to add an element of role playing during the character creation process as well, because you're making decisions about, well, what type of weapon is my character going to be using, what kind of what spells from the zero level spells or the first level spells am I going to consider to be my go-tos. And you're going to start planning those things out before the first actual game session. Once you begin the actual game session, again, my opinion, once you begin that game session, though, you are no longer functioning as the player sitting at the table. You are now trying to put everything into the senses of the player character, the perception of the player character, the and the knowledge base of the player character. And so, as a DM and as a player, both parties at the table here need to try to create that separation between the two. It will enhance role playing. It will make the experience of adventuring much more gratifying. It will actually put into a better context what experience points means. All right. And a good DM is going to reward uh, through experience points, maybe not a lot of experience points, just small bits of experience points from the characters learning things about the world as they make these discoveries, as they do this exploration. And they're not just exploring geographically, they're also exploring their own abilities. They're exploring, uh, first contact with new animals and species and monsters and the like. And as they build up their knowledge base, that is a way to express the the points value of experience points. So if you do have a game system that uses experience points, such as Dungeons and Dragons does, then that is part of the DM's ability to say, well, this is why you earned an extra 50 experience points. Not just because of your role playing, but because your character has actually learned something about the world through their experiences. Now, I'm going to explain how this really solidified in my mind as the reason to create this separation. And it's from a real play. And my one of my players, he's a very experienced role player, and in keeping the in the module keeping the Borderlands, they were actually in the Caves of Chaos, and I believe he was second level, and the party encountered a were rat for the first time, along with some other other regular giant rats and such, and he very directly stated that he was going to cast a or he had cast actually he had cast a speak with animals. He was going to try to negotiate with the were rat, because they knew that they really didn't have the ability to fight the were rat. Not very many of the characters had a +1 or silver weapons in order to actually damage the were rat if they did get into a fight with it. And so he cast the Speak with Animals spell. And I informed him that the spell did not appear to have an effect. He could not speak in the rat language that he was anticipating doing. And so he was, justifiably confused by this, because it was partly an interpretation of my own. And I basically said that, and we had to go out of character. In this point, we had to go meta to explain why it did not work. And this is one of those instances where it's important when you're doing a rules not ratification, a clarification, that that I explain this, especially since it was my interpretation. All right, so it wasn't just clarifying something from the rule book; it was clarifying something that I introduced to this situation. So I informed him that a Speak with Animals spell would not work on this were rat or any lycanthrope because they're not animals. I also told him that, you know, uh, were rats understand common, and so you could have actually just spoken to the were rat in common and had that same conversation. So he had asked then, well, since my character would have known that, I wouldn't have cast the spell, and he wanted to take the spell casting back. And I said, no, you declared that you cast the spell, and now you learned that it didn't work. It wouldn't work on a were rat or any were creature. And then he, had asked or said at the time, he said, well, my character would have known that though. And I said, your character had never encountered a were creature before. So this is the learning experience that your character now has. And I forget how much XP I gave for that discovery that he made. It might have been like 25 experience points or maybe 50, because again, I reward role playing, even if it's inadvertent and unexpected role playing. But the reason why I did that is I wanted to encourage the continued separation of player knowledge from character knowledge. I wanted to encourage my players. At the time, there was like 9 of them, all 9 of them. I wanted to encourage them to think about character experience as growing the knowledge that the characters would gain from these varied experiences, from these new experiences, from trial and error. And Even in failure, you're going to learn something. And so by creating that separation and being very clear that this is how I would interpret, such things taking place going on forward, um, they very quickly adopted through their characters the the actions of making a list of and recording certain notes of the encounters that they had throughout the rest of their, for the next almost 2 years. They're just an ongoing ledger of we encountered a let's say a I'm drawing a blank. They encountered a white dragon. And so, having fought a white dragon and and defeated a white dragon, and one of the characters likes to take little souvenirs from things as he's going along, or he likes to look for spell components. I actually have two players that like to do that kind of a thing, and so by encountering these creatures, defeating these creatures, or just meeting them and parlaying with them, and and having a non-combat interaction with them, their knowledge base is growing. And so when they come up to a situation of something that they have encountered before, you start to have a meeting of the player knowledge and the character knowledge kind of enjoining, at that point. Um, Another example is my players don't really ask me if they can do things. They just tell me what they're going to do, and so I just let it flow for the most part. I mean, it's kind of rare that they say, "Hey, am I able to do this?" I actually don't recall any time where they're saying that. But if they have asked about a particular thing that their character doesn't know, I will remind them that, ask the party members, because every party member has background knowledge of various things. And that's all the prompting that they need to remind them, every once in a while, that if just because their character doesn't have knowledge, maybe one of the other player characters in the party does. And so they talk to each other, they interact with each other, looking for additional information so that their characters have the information and the knowledge base, and not just the players, or try to again reinforce that separation. So this has been it was really eye opening to me. I know that I've run games this way before, but it was never so solidified as it was roughly 2 years ago, when I was like, wow, this is really, really important in order to encourage role playing, and to get the players out of their minds and get the players into the characters' minds. And so I describe the I describe when they enter into an area, kind of what do they see, what do they smell, what do they feel, what do they hear, and so on. And then they will make their actions, they'll declare their actions, they'll say, this is what my character is doing. I'm not going to get into the first person, third person kind of thing, because I don't think that's as important as just mentally them functioning through their character's knowledge base, through their character skills, and not through their player skill and knowledge. So, I'm not as concerned with first versus third person. I'm not as concerned, or not concerned at all, if they're talking in voices or anything like that. But I have encouraged them to develop their characters over all of these many months, over a year, almost 2 years now. And they're starting to pick up on, knowing what some of the other characters in the party are going to do before they even necessarily declared it. And so they're they really have grown, not just into their own character and into their own character's mindset, but they actually have knowledge. All right, and this is, I'm sorry, player character knowledge of the other player characters in the group and how they may function. They even remember, what equipment some of the other characters have in their party, so they'll know, hey, you were the last one with the magic necklace that heals bone damage in particular. All right, and so they have knowledge of each other's characters, and they interact with each other through their characters. And so, again, that is role playing. Do I have to put it in check every once in a while and like a slight reminder? Sure. I mean, it happens once in a while. Are we so stringent that we're never out of character? No. When you have 7 to 9 players, on screen, because we're not playing in person, we're all over the world. Really, we have players in Europe and throughout the United States and such. So it's you know we're not 100% immersed into a role playing mode where we never slip out and go into meta gaming at the table. But when the action is on, you know, that is when they're all focused on their characters and they're all focused in their characters' senses and, like I said, senses, perceptions, and skill usages and knowledge base and such. So uh, that's what I recommend that you do if you haven't done this already. Is to try to create that separation. Um, Tell your players, in that session zero, that you're intending to create the separation and for them to try their best to just function with just character knowledge going forward. And you'll find that you don't have to remind them very often to do that. They will latch on to that and it will enhance their experience, both as a player and a player character. It will enhance their experience, both in role playing their characters and getting that real sense of accomplishment for character development that's taking place when you consider the character's knowledge as important as their experience, as important as the gear that they're gaining or the loot that they're gathering. You know, that I think is the real benefit behind this, is that your players will walk away from each session uh, really feeling like their character has grown and their character has accomplished something. So that's my take on this topic of player knowledge and metagaming versus character knowledge and role playing as I describe it. Um, you're welcome to chime in the comments section and agree with me, disagree with me. Point out where you think I should think of it in a slightly different way. If you want to try to convince me that I'm just coming from this in a totally wrong way, you're welcome to try to do that. I doubt that you will. But if you make a really, really convincing argument where I am wrong with creating this separation, I will certainly listen to you and weigh that seriously if it's coming from a place of constructive um, desire to have a conversation and a discussion over this. So thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed this video. I welcome your comments in there, especially those that might challenge some of my idea. And, I look forward to seeing you on a gaming screen sometime soon, and possibly in person at a upcoming convention. Looking to do a few of those this upcoming 6 to 8 months. And as always, stay safe out there, keep on playing, and just enjoy the hobby as much as you possibly can. And in the way that you find that you're enjoying it, whether it's deep, deep role play, or if it's just more casual, um, just playing the game to have fun. So without further ado, let's pass this on to the end screen, and have a great rest of your evening. Take care.